Week 17 is in the books, and the NFL season is now over for 18 of the league's 32 teams. The season couldn't have ended sooner for some of these teams, while it is just getting started for others. The Buffalo Bills looked great as they put up 56 points in a game where they beat a 10-win team by 30, the Giants spoiled the Cowboys' playoff hopes, and the Browns clinched a playoff berth for the first time in nearly 2 decades. We're going to be discussing everything Week 17 related in today's video, and to be completely honest, we're not going to talk a whole lot about the non-playoff teams due to their seasons being over. Now, there will be several videos about the draft and the offseason coming up, so it's not like we're entirely forgetting about teams that weren't successful this year, because that certainly is not the case. A quick shout out to Cam Newton for a 4 total touchdown day and what will probably be his final game as a New England Patriot. Now, before we get started, only about 39% of you guys watching the videos are subscribed to the channel, so if you do enjoy the content, please like the video and hit the subscribe button, as it would be very much appreciated. Now let's begin. And we start today's video with Baltimore to discuss the Ravens. This is a team that has very quietly won 5 in a row to get into the dance, and as we have seen so many times before in NFL history, all that matters is a chance at the trophy. The way they're entering the playoffs this year versus last is monumental times different, and it may benefit them in the next few weeks. Heading into the 2019 postseason, there was so much pressure on the Ravens with the 14-2 record, the MVP quarterback, and having won 12 straight games entering the postseason. Not surprisingly, when the tables turned on them and the Titans applied some pressure, they pressed, were out of their comfort zone due to how much they'd been dominating down the stretch of the 2019 regular season, and were manhandled by the Titans' run game. They will get a rematch against them next week, and it's going to be a great game between these teams. Can Lamar win his first playoff game, or can the Ravens slow down a 2,000-yard rusher? Derrick Henry is an absolute machine at running back, and this machine has gotten the best of the Ravens twice in the past year and some change. Obviously, we know about the divisional round, but he did help the Titans walk off in M&T Bank Stadium back in late November. I want to say I really hope Lamar and the Ravens win a playoff game because of the criticism he will face in less than a week if the Ravens start out 0-3 in the playoffs under his quarterback. The narrative is already there with Lamar Jackson not being able to win playoff games, and the dunks people can get on Twitter with him, but that's at 0-2 and not 0-3. We live in a different world now than 20 years ago, but it is worth noting Peyton Manning did start out his playoff career 0-3, and his third playoff game was a 41-0 loss to the New York Jets. If the Ravens do lose next week, then it doesn't look good for the next few years. It's obviously not the end of the world, but it's going to be in Lamar Jackson's head for a while until they win one. He is only 23, so it's not like he's 35 and they're just getting there for the third time and the clock is ticking. It's not like that at all, but the conversation will be had all week, and it will be a huge topic of discussion. We saw the Titans win 2 playoff games last year and get up double digits on the Chiefs, and good for them honestly, but I would really like to see the Ravens win a playoff game so Lamar can get the monkey off his back. Now we head to the NFC to discuss the Bears-Packers game and ultimately the Bears postseason. Chicago, not surprisingly, lost to Green Bay on Sunday, with the Packers having to win to clinch the number 1 seed. Aaron Rodgers threw for 4 touchdowns, and with the Cardinals' loss to the Rams, the Bears are in the dance. Now, as I said with the Ravens, all that matters is getting into the dance, and it does, don't get me wrong, but I don't think the Bears are going to be able to go very far in the playoffs, meaning, and this is fair to say, they will lose next weekend in New Orleans. Chicago isn't a bad team by any means, as they are a top 7 seed, but it's not realistic for them to go into the Superdome and beat the Saints with the current roster they have. Could they give them a game? Yes, absolutely they could, but winning in New Orleans in a playoff game is a much different thing. The 2018 Rams did it, and obviously there is some controversy to that win, and the 2019 Vikings did too. Each of those teams were better than the 2020 Bears are, and with the Saints being bounced in the first round last year, and potentially the last playoff run of Drew Brees' career, I don't see it happening again. Chicago will have some big decisions to make this upcoming offseason with a quarterback mainly, but they do need to acquire another receiver to truly be a good offense. But for the sake of this video and for the sake of next week, good for them for making the playoffs, and fantastic for them if they prove me wrong, but I fully expect the Bears season to be over 1 week from now. Now for the other 2 and 7 seeding game, which is the Colts and Bills. So there is something that needs to be said really before we start this segment. The Colts are a great team, and it's honestly a shame they're an 11-win, 7-seed team. However long the NFL has this specific playoff system, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, or the rest of time, there may never be an 11-win, 7-seed again. And in reality, they are better than a lot of NFL teams, but what's unfortunate for them is who they're not better than, and that's the Buffalo Bills. The Bills enter the postseason having scored 56 points against the Dolphins and on a 6-game win streak since their bye week back in Week 11. They're going to be a very hard team to beat in the tournament, and with it being in Buffalo, I don't have any concerns that Buffalo will somehow, someway come out on top. This may end up being Phillip Rivers' final game as a quarterback, and even if it is, then it has been a Hall of Fame career and good for him. This may prove to be the toughest draw in NFL history because of the format, with an 11-win team that has beaten teams like the Titans and the Packers, having to go to the red-hot Buffalo Bills and face a team that's only lost since the middle of October was a Hail Mary in the desert. I really do hope this is a good game and that it comes down to the final drive, but with how hot Buffalo is and the Colts having to go on the road, I don't see any way Indy wins this game. Next is the Browns-Steelers game and a rematch of the Browns-Steelers next week. The Steelers played a close game with backup quarterback Mason Rudolph primarily playing the game, with Big Ben getting a much-needed week off before the playoffs. Side note, it was great to see Mason and Myles Garrett on social media hash the beef out. Now, congrats to the Browns for making the playoffs for the first time in 2 decades. If you know a Browns fan and they're hyped up or seemingly obnoxious, then let them be. They've waited over 6,500 days to have this feeling again, and who knows after this year when it will happen again. Unfortunately for Browns fans, though, is they will probably be one and done, as we are having a conversation about the Cleveland Browns going into Heinz Field for a playoff game. With the week of rest for Ben, I do expect the Steelers to win, but I certainly don't expect them to lose as bad as they did earlier in the year, which, if you don't know, the Steelers beat them in October 38-7. This will be Baker Mayfield's first career playoff game, and for his sake, I hope it goes well. I do. And for as much criticism as the Steelers have received in the past month, from being frauds, from Juju dancing on teams' logos, from 11-0 to 11-3, and everything in between, I fully expect them to come out hungry and with anger for how they've been consistently disrespected for the better part of a month. Cleveland is no slouch, though, as they rushed for nearly 200 yards on Sunday, and the Steelers have a lot of defenders out. That is no secret. Now, that will certainly present a challenge, but it's a challenge I expect them to overcome. And with the season on the line and the game being in Heinz, give me the Steelers over the Browns. And the next game we go to is the Rams-Seahawks. So a few weeks ago I said the Seahawks were done after they beat the football team and took a lot of criticism for it. And when I said this, the Rams defense was playing solid, creating turnovers and being a pain for opposing offenses. They were on Sunday, and although Kyler didn't play as much due to being injured, holding a team to 7 points is a great accomplishment as long as it's not like the 2011 Curtis Painter-led Colts, which for a team that was on the brink of the playoffs and the Cardinals, it was not. But for a playoff game in Seattle against Russell Wilson and company is a much different thing than playing Chris Streveler for half of the game. The Rams can definitely go in there and win. They have the talent to and have already beat the Seahawks once this year. But how healthy Jared Goff is a serious question mark right now, because what we're being told as fans and how Jared actually feels are 2 different things. Of course we're going to be told he's fine, and of course Jared is going to have to be an Iron Man like all NFL players are, and he will play. With us not knowing how he will feel going on the road and to Seattle of all places, Seattle will win this game and move on to the divisional round. Russell will probably make play after play where he's going one way, then comes back and does a signature Russ move after the play should have been over 6 or 7 seconds ago and rips Rams farts out. But that's just him being Russ, and I expect the Seahawks to win in wildcard weekend. And last we discussed the football team, their Sunday night game, and their upcoming playoff matchup against the Bucs. So first things first, if you're a Giants fan, I can understand being a little upset about Doug Peterson's decision to pull Jalen Hurts and put in Nate Sudfeld and openly say we're losing this game for the 6th pick instead of the 9th pick. But what also needs to be said is be better than 6-10. Just win one more game and that's it. You're division champions. be 7-9 and win the NFC East. It's not like this came down to a 1 versus a 5 seed and a first round bye and playing wildcard weekend. It's really the opposite. But congratulations to Washington, and it is fair to say they match up better with Tampa than the Giants would. Now the Bucs squeaked out a win against them, the Giants, earlier in the year, but the playoffs are a different animal. Beating Tom in the playoffs is incredibly difficult, and Washington will be presented with a huge challenge. But they are well equipped to do so with their dominant defensive line, highlighted by Chase Young. And Chase has lived up to the hype, and he is definitely a force to be reckoned with. Washington's defensive line is incredible, and despite being 7-9, they are certainly not a bad team. They have definitely heated up down the stretch. They will give Tampa a game. Now, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the football team wins, but I do think the Bucs will prevail at FedEx Field this weekend. And some last takeaways are the refs absolutely hate the Lions. That's coming from a Vikings fan. Tua may not be the long-term answer, and I will have a video on that at some point. I'm not just leaving today with that, and that's it. And the Raiders need an NFL caliber defense. Now, with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please subscribe to the channel and drop a like. It helps a ton, and I truly appreciate the support. I'll see you guys next time. Love you guys. Deuces. Peace.